So, I always forget that this is a soft-spoken video and not a whisper video because I just got done doing a whisper video and it's really weird. So, we are on chapter 3 of Waveborn. 3. The darkness slowly disappeared from my vision, but my head still throbbed, sending sparks of pain across my temple. My limbs were numb, giving me no clue as to where I was or what had happened. My memory was a blur of black and white, the figures across my mind's eye foggy and unrecognizable, further frustrating me as I tried to open my eyes again. My sense slowly came back, blood flowing down my arms as the pins and needles sparked across my skin as I came to. My eyes fluttered open. I pushed myself up, trying to register what had happened. "Oh, good, you're awake," a man's voice exclaimed from my side. Turning to him, I felt my heart skip a beat as I looked him over, realizing that this man was not only the same man from earlier today, but he was wearing my father's clothes. "I hope you don't mind that I borrowed these," he paused, looking down at the clothes he wore, before looking back up at me. I didn't think he wanted me to walk around naked again. Without warning, my memories came flooding back like a tidal wave, pulling me down as the information tries to suffocate me. Delmar wasn't human. He had broken into my home all naked. Delmar had fled the ocean and was a mermaid. I had felt the fear then as my hands shook, absent-mindedly pushing myself away from him. "Anna," he said calmingly as he inched forward towards me, "I'm not here to hurt you." Closing my eyes, I tried to think of what I could do. There was no way this was real. I was still dreaming. I had to be. But a part of me knew that this was definitely not a dream. This was all too real. We still hadn't investigated the entire ocean floor, and it was entirely possible that there was another intelligent species beneath the depths of the sea. Of course, I wasn't sure how I felt being the one to discover it. He seemed human enough. I mean, in this form, he was entirely too human and incredibly gorgeous. Maybe that was his tactic to pull me in, promising sweet things until he pulled me under the waves to drown me. "I won't drown you," he said as my eyes shot open. "I mean you no harm, Anna. I know that saying this means nothing right now, but please know that I'm truthful to you." "Did you just read my mind?" I asked, dumbfounded and a little uneasy. "Why should I believe you or trust you at all?" He cautiously walked over and sat down at the foot of the bed. "Yes, I can read your mind. I don't believe you will trust me. Not now, anyway. That's something I must earn, but I guess this isn't the best way to earn that trust." I nodded as I looked down, realizing I was no longer wrapped in a towel and instead wore my pajamas. "How am I in my pajamas? Did you dress me?" I asked, horrified. "Yes, I figured you didn't want to be naked in a stranger's presence, so I dressed you in your nightclothes. I hope you don't mind." He paused. This is not what I had in mind when I wished to meet a human for the first time. With wide eyes, I stood up, completely freaked out that he had seen me naked and had dressed me while I was unconscious. This was not okay. I wanted him out of my house, but where would he go if he couldn't return to the ocean? I cleared my throat. "I mind. You can't go around telling complete strangers that you're a mermaid, and you definitely can't break into someone's home naked and then dress them while they're unconscious. That's wrong and disturbing, and it makes me uncomfortable." I began pacing the length of the room, and then I stopped abruptly, cautiously looking back at him. "I know, and I'm so sorry. I know you have boundaries, and I crossed them." He paused, looking back at me sincerely. "I will leave, and I am sorry. I have made you uncomfortable." I didn't say anything. I just watched him stand and leave me alone in my bedroom. Within minutes, I heard the soft click of the front door as the stranger left, wearing my father's clothes. Shutting my eyes, I tried to comprehend everything that had happened and wondered if I was hallucinating. A few days since the break-in, and I hadn't seen any sight of him. It was nearly a week later when I pulled into my driveway that I saw him standing on my doorstep with a bouquet of what looked like coral and shells. What are you doing here?" I asked, slamming my car door. "I have come to apologize," he said simply, his eyes pleading for me to forgive him. "Why should I forgive you? You broke into my home." "I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking. Please, can we just start over?" I looked away, pressing my lips together in a firm line as I thought about what I could do. Then I sighed and motioned towards the door. "Go inside. We need to have a chat." We sat in silence at the dining room table. I watched him, studying him for any sign of lying, but there was only one. I could tell that he hadn't left because the ocean was bad, although there could have definitely been something else. If he had fled his home, it was probably due to something big, and I couldn't risk anyone else finding out this secret. Otherwise, he'd never be able to go back. "I think it would be best if we start over. You say you have nowhere else to go, and I'm afraid that if anyone else finds out you're, abilities, you will be in danger. So you can stay here, but I have a few conditions. He nodded. Okay, what are your conditions? We need to set boundaries. I don't want us seeing each other naked. I'm not that kind of girl. And if you need to change forms, make sure no one is around and that your secret will be safe. He nodded in understanding. I can do that. I'm sorry about before, he apologized, guilt written on his face. Can we forget that ever happened? Yes, let's start over and forget that ever happened. I tried to smile, hoping we could change the subject. I tapped my foot against the hardwood floor, as the fact sunk in that I was sitting in front of a being I only thought was a myth until a few days ago. Anyway, how is your English this good? I asked. I couldn't help but question him further as my curiosity got the better of me. Are there more of you out there? Why did you pick me? Why did you want to meet a human? Are there other abilities I should know about? He let out a boisterous laugh. Hold on, one question at a time. Sorry, I mumbled, looking down at the table. My mother taught me your language, just as hers taught her, Delmar began, turning to me. There are many of us within the depths of the sea, different kingdoms and races, much like your civilization. I chose you because you seemed trustworthy and knowledgeable enough about the sea that I felt that wouldn't be a big of a shock. Finding out there were other intelligent beings not too far away can be stressful, I suppose, but I believe you're handling it well. I'm kind of surprised I'm handling the idea of mer people existing so well, but I know we haven't searched the entire ocean. The existence of other intelligent beings was possible, and I'm still trying to figure out if I'm dreaming. You're intending on staying with me, aren't you? If you don't think I'll be a burden. I shook my head, knowing that he had nowhere else to go, and I had to take him in. You can stay, just remember, boundaries. We spent the rest of the afternoon getting to know each other. Soon, what felt like an interrogation turned into a vibrant conversation, and I hadn't realized the sun had already set until Demar looked back at me. It's nearly high tide. You should probably get some sleep. I nodded as a yawn tore through me, echoing throughout the room. Delmar chuckled, a sound I wanted to hear again and again. What the hell was wrong with me? I should probably show you where you're going to sleep. We'll have to go to the store in the morning, and I'll get you some clothes. I only have a few of my dad's things left, and I don't think you'll feel comfortable wearing the same raggedy t-shirt and jeans every day. I have work tomorrow, so we will go after. Can you entertain yourself until I get back? I should be fine, Anna. He assured me before I stood, leading him into one of the guest bedrooms across the hall from mine. The room was spacious, sporting a queen-size bed furnished with a comfortable quilt, a dresser, and a door leading to a bathroom. I watched as Delmar smiled to himself, sitting down on the bed. I have a toothbrush in there, I continued. A few towels if you want to take a shower, or I suppose you can't take a shower because of your tail, but there's a full tub so you should be fine. I was rambling, not realize he had gotten up and was walking towards me. What? I'll be fine. You don't have to worry. I let out a breath. I hadn't realized I was holding. Nodding to him, I turned around and was headed to my room when I heard him call. Thank you. I glanced back. I smiled. You're welcome. Good night, Delmar. Good night, Nana. Shutting the door behind me, I tiptoed back into my room, crawling into the bed after shutting off the lights. Instantly, I felt my limbs grow heavy as sleep overtook me, pulling me into my dream. Within moments, I was dreaming. The night of Mom's crash filling my vision, memories all around me. I watched as the paramedics rushed towards her Jeep, which was now crushed against the side of a semi. I knew this wasn't real, but still, a scream tore through me just as it had years before when my mom had passed. And just as I was about to run up and hug my mother one last time, I realized that the parent I expected to be there wasn't lying on the street. My father's body was almost unrecognizable. But as soon as I realized it was him, the dream vanished, filling the void with an endless sea. I was drowning in the sea, and just when I was about to succumb, I awoke, a terrifying scream echoing from my lips, my sobs overtaking me. Mom had died in the crash, not Dad. Why were their deaths mixed in my nightmares? How long would I have to endure these nightmares until I healed? Someone burst in my bedroom door, panic and concern etched across his face. He looked at me, taking in the fact that I was drenched in sweat and clutching my bed sheets for dear life. Are you all right? Sorry, I rasped. I just had a nightmare. I watched Delmar took a few steps towards me, silently debating whether he should come closer or just leave me be. Thankfully, he came towards me, sitting on the side of my bed and looking at me with watchful eyes. Do you want to talk about it? I shook my head, pushing the covers off me as I tried to calm my racing heartbeat. Will you be all right if I go back to bed? I nodded, taking a deep breath before closing my eyes. Before I could tell if I was asleep or awake, my body reacted on its own, grabbing a hold of his hand. I spoke without thinking, asking the question I knew would change everything. Will you stay with me? Just until I fall asleep. You don't have to if you don't want to. I mean, I don't know why I'm asking you this. We barely know each other. Yes, Delmar whispered, turning back to me, his surprise replaced with understanding. I'll stay with you till you fall asleep. Thank you. He only nodded before letting go of my hand and crawling over to the left side of the bed while I took the right. As we got comfortable, I thought I would feel awkward sharing a bed with a man I didn't know, let alone a being who wasn't even human. But I didn't. I felt entirely comfortable. His presence felt familiar in a way I couldn't quite explain. As my body relaxed, I turned on my side, feeling sleep overtake me once more. And this time, no nightmares on my parents' desk plagued my dreams, only a peaceful darkness. Chapter 4. My eyes fluttered open as the sun shone bright against my face, spreading its warmth across my features and awakening me from my peaceful escape from reality. I heard the soft sounds of someone breathing near my ear and felt his chest rise and fall against my back. Delmar's arms were wrapped around me in a protective and comfortable hold. I felt my body relax further as he pulled me closer to him in his sleep, my body wishing it could go back to its peaceful state of rest while I leaned into Delmar's embrace. Part of me knew I couldn't stay in this bed wrapped in his embrace forever. I knew I had a job to do, and I couldn't just not show up, especially on my first day. Delmar, I whispered, unsure of what I should say or whether I should wake him. He mumbled in his sleep for me to go back to sleep, and he nestled his face into my neck, closing the distance between us as if we weren't inches from each other already. Delmar, please, I have to get up. I have work to do. I pleaded half-heartedly, finding myself nestling deeper into him. I felt something hard press up against my butt, causing a blush to spread across my face and neck. God, what was I getting myself into? Why was I acting like this? Just 5 more minutes, he groaned sleepily as I tried unsuccessfully to peel his arms off me so I could escape his comfortable embrace. Seriously, I can't stay here all day, I huffed, slightly annoyed when he tightened his hold on me, the embrace no longer as comfortable as it had been. He mumbled unhappily as I unraveled myself from his arms and crawled out of bed, my feet hitting the cold hardwood floor. As quickly as I could, I got dressed, hoping he wasn't watching me as I pulled my shirt over my head. Once I was dressed, I grabbed my purse and keys, glancing at the time on my phone. I felt the panic rise in me as I saw the time. I grabbed a banana off the counter and scarfed it down. I was just about to walk out the door when I saw Delmar come across the corner, rubbing his eyes as he tried to wake himself up. What time is it? He asked. It's early. Go back to bed, I replied, opening the front door. I'll be home around 4. With that said, I exited my home, leaving behind a man who wasn't human to fend for himself, a mere man whose arms I had just spent the night embraced in. I knew he had a rocky start, and I just met him, but I couldn't help but be drawn to him. I hoped he stayed put and didn't cause any trouble. I must be insane to think this was a good idea, to leave a stranger in my home, or to spend the night in bed with him. During the drive to the Institute, I was a nervous wreck. I knew I had nothing to be nervous about, but the feeling never ceased. I would just be filing paperwork and overlooking charts today. Nothing insanely strenuous. So why did I feel like something bad was about to happen? As I parked in the employee parking... Hair's tickling my nose. As I parked in the employee parking, I could still feel the nervousness churn in the pit of my stomach. Taking a deep breath, I exited my truck, locking the door securely behind me. Swinging my purse over my shoulder, I made my way inside, the humidity not yet clinging to my skin this early in the morning. As I entered, I felt my nervousness wash away as I watched the fish swimming in the surrounding tanks. The water swishing slightly on the other side of the frosted glass. Smiling to myself, I made my way over to the front desk, hoping I could find my way to the HR department so I could start my shift. Hi, my name's Anna Lyle. Today is my first day working with this company, and I was wondering if you could let your human resources manager know I'm here, I said in the most professional manner I could muster. Right, okay, give me 1 second, I'll call them. The short brunette replied from the other side of the desk, quickly picking up the phone and dialing. As the phone rang, I stared into one tank along the wall. Coral rested in the middle of the tank as fish darted in and out around it. I wondered what it would be like to breathe underwater. Would it be as easy and light as air, or would the water be tougher to draw into one's lungs? Did Delmar have gills that helped him breathe? How was he able to change form so easily? I was so consumed in my thoughts that I was startled when the receptionist let me know that the HR manager would come down to greet me. Moments later, I felt a tap on my shoulder and turned to see her standing right behind me. Oh, I'm sorry, I said. My mind just ran away from me. "That's all right, dear," the woman in her 40s said, her kind eyes looking back at me. "My name is Diana. Shall we get started?" I nodded before following her further into the building. She pointed to different rooms, mentioning names as we passed. When we finally made it to her office, my mind was swirling with all the newfound information. I hoped I would still remember by the end of the day. She flicked on the light to her office, motioning for me to take a seat. I did so, thanking her. She sat across from me at her desk. I noticed an enormous number of post-it notes stuck to every available space around her computer screen, the colors striking against the gray paint of the walls. "All right. Now, if I could have you sign these documents for me, we can get your profile completed and take a photo for your ID. I believe James has a few things he'd like you to get done today. I'm so glad you've accepted the position as one of our marine biologists, and I hope you enjoy your time here." She beamed as I took the forms from her outstretched hand and signed them. After everything was signed, Diana took the signed documents and led me to the back of the facility, where they held injured marine life. One room caught my eye, although I wasn't sure why. It held a large tank, empty of any contents. However, it was strikingly unusual. What was strikingly unusual was the amount of monitoring equipment across from it, and the eerie sense that this room held secrets that I wanted to find out. "Ah, you must be Miss Lyle. My name is Dr. Jones, but everyone here calls me James." "It's great to finally meet you," a man said as he walked towards us, wearing a button-down and slacks. How he could stand to wear all that in this humidity was beyond my understanding. Giving my hand a firm shake, he let me know about the water levels and got me up to speed in the Atlantic's current marine life. One thing was certain, I knew about a species of marine life that he didn't. Once we made our introductions, I followed him into another room filled with filing cabinets and a desk stacked high with paperwork. To anyone else, this would seem boring, but not to me. I couldn't hide the excitement. Without another word, James left me to the piles of paperwork, and without a second thought, I took my seat at one of the desks. Not wasting any time, I grabbed a few of the files, looking over the data as the silence filled the room, the only sound being the rustling of paper. But then, in silence, your mind can wander. And mine did just that. As I thought of Delmar and the feeling of his arms around me, I could get used to waking up to him. I still wasn't sure why he had such an effect on me. With a sigh, I tried to focus on my work, knowing that if I continued to dwell on this morning, my mind would run away to thoughts I shouldn't be thinking about. After work, I drove home while listening to the radio, almost forgetting that I had left Delmar at my home just a few hours ago. As I pulled up in the drive, I noticed that the property was still in one piece and hoped that the inside looked just as good as the exterior. Shutting the door, my keys jingled in my hands. I nervously walked up to the front door and stuck the key in the lock. I held my breath, readying myself for whatever may lie on the other side. "Delmar?" I called, setting my purse and keys down on the table near the door. "I'm home." "Hey," he greeted from the couch as the sound of the TV came through the speakers. "Did you have fun at work?" He was spread out on the couch, the remote resting on his chest. He seemed almost human as he lay there, peacefully watching whatever film he had picked, and I almost forgot he had asked me a question. Yeah, I had a good day," I replied, walking over to the couch where Delmar was stretched out. He moved his legs so I could sit down. "How was your day?" "It was good," he said, laying his legs on my lap. "I ate the red stuff in the fridge, but I haven't gotten to cleaning my dishes yet." "You mean spaghetti?" I asked, fighting back laughter. "Is that what that's called?" he asked, his eyes filled with amazement. "Yes, that's what it's called, and that's okay. I'll do them later," I commented, brushing him off before turning to him. "Are you ready to go to the store?" "Sure," he said, jumping off the couch and turning the television off. I unlocked the truck, pulling my hair up in a ponytail as the humidity clung to my skin. I watched as Delmar stared at my vehicle for a minute before fumbling with the handle and successfully pulling the door open. I hopped into the truck and watched as he followed my movements exactly, tentatively making sure he was doing everything right. I clicked my seatbelt into place and heard him do the same. "Ready?" "Yeah." He nodded as I started the truck and backed out of the drive. We were quiet as we drove to Walmart. Even quieter when we got out, and I grabbed a cart. I felt my nervousness spark again as Delmar walked beside me, smiling at everyone who passed by us. When we entered the men's section, I grabbed his shirt off the rack and pressed it against his torso, checking the size before throwing 5 shirts and a 5-pack of white t-shirts in the cart. After we threw in a package of boxers that I hoped fit him, estimating the size he needed based on his jean size, We walked over to the beauty section to grab his toiletries. I had the Old Spice shampoo and conditioner. I took a sniff. My grandpa had always used Old Spice, and memories from my past seemed to flood around me. I smiled to myself. "What's that?" Delmar asked as he looked over me. "No, it's just shampoo. It helps you clean your hair," I replied, moving to set it back on the shelf. "I see. Does it smell good?" I only nodded as Delmar grabbed it and gave it a good sniff before smiling and setting it into the basket. "Do you need anything else?" "No, I think we're good," I replied. As we made our way to the registers, I wondered what I had gotten myself into, and what it would be like to have a mermaid for a roommate. Alright, that's the end of chapter 4. We're about 20 minutes in, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a break for now. Let me just update y'all here. I forget exactly how many chapters there are in this. I've been kind of reading them 2 at a time. I believe there's just 31 and an epilogue. Nope, there's 32, 33. Yeah, 33 chapters and an epilogue. So, I hope you guys enjoyed that, and hopefully I'll get to read a couple more chapters soon.